back to another exciting lesson with me, Sheree, and your favorite, Matthew.
Hey Emkids, it's good to be back this week.
Hey Matthew, guess what we would be learning about this week?
What?
The 12 disciples. This is going to be so exciting. Emkids, we're going to learn a brand new song about the 12 disciples, and I hope you're ready.
Woohoo! Hey Sheree, do you think we can get the Emkids to send us videos of them singing the song all by themselves?
That's a great idea, Matthew. So, Emkids, why don't you learn the song and then get your mom and dad to record it? You can send the video through via WhatsApp or even tag the Embassy Church on Facebook. I can't wait to see all the Emkids singing again.
See you on the other side.
Now the song stuck in my head. Hey Matthew, what's your favorite band in the whole entire world?
Well, I like Hillsongs.
You do? Wow! Are you like a big fan?
You bet I am. I have all the songs, pictures, and I even know everything about them.
Wow, Matthew, that's a lot of stuff. You actually remind me of the 12 disciples. They were also a special group of followers. These men lived long before you became a huge fan and follower of Hillsongs. They weren't fans of any musician or any movie or any book. These men weren't even fans. We call them disciples, the 12 disciples.
Wow, so followers started way before I was even born?
You bet your hair on it, Matt. Let's watch a video on our story today.
One day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, a big crowd of people gathered. As the crowd grew, the people pressed closer and closer to Jesus.
Jesus saw 2 empty boats at the water's edge. The fishermen had left and were washing their nets.
Jesus stepped into one of the boats. It belonged to Simon and his brother Andrew.
Simon? Don't you mean Peter?
Well, later Jesus gives Simon a new name and calls him Peter, but that hasn't happened yet, so in this story, his name is still Simon.
Got it. So where were we? Oh yeah, Jesus asked Simon to take him out on the water away from the shore.
Right, and Simon did it. Jesus sat in the boat away from the shore and taught the crowds from there. When Jesus finished teaching, he said,
"Go out where it is deep and let down your nets to catch some fish."
We worked hard all night and didn't catch a thing, but if you say so, I'll let down the nets again.
Simon and Andrew let down their nets, and this time, when they pulled the nets out of the sea, they were so full of fish they began to tear. They called out to their friends who owned the other boat.
Guys, bring your boat over here. You're not going to believe this.
James, John, and their father Zebedee brought their boat over. Soon, both boats were so full of fish, they almost sank.
The fishermen were amazed. They knew Jesus had performed a miracle right in front of them. Simon fell to his knees.
He was in awe. Simon saw how powerful Jesus was and knew he must have been sent by God.
Oh Lord, please leave me. I don't deserve to be near you. I have disobeyed God.
Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people.
Jesus meant that from that day forward, they would be telling people everywhere about Jesus and his power. And because of that, many would choose to follow Jesus.
When they got back to shore, Simon and his brother Andrew decided to follow Jesus.
Their friends, James and John, left their boat with their father so they could follow Jesus too.
Those 4 fishermen left everything behind so they could follow Jesus' example.
They learned about Jesus, spent time with him, and discovered how to do everything the way Jesus did.
And that's how Simon,
also known as Peter,
along with Andrew, James, and John, became Jesus' very first disciple.
Jesus chose 12 men to be his closest followers, his disciples. These men were with him more than anyone else during his time on earth. The disciples saw every miracle. They heard every parable. They also had every parable explained to them. These men knew Jesus better than anyone. And when the time came, they were the ones who took the good news of Jesus to the world.
You got that right, Matt. The 12 men that were chosen were not even the most educated or even the most religious. Peter, James, John, and Andrew were fishermen. Matthew, just like your name, was a tax collector, a job many people believed to be crooked and corrupt. The disciples were the one who established Jesus' church on earth.
Wow, that means I can be a disciple.
Yes, Matt. In fact, if you are already telling your friends and family about Jesus and his love, you are a disciple of him.
Wait, what? I'm an actual disciple?
Yes, you are, Matthew.
But I'm not perfect. I sometimes do wrong things that I know God isn't proud of. I do ask for forgiveness, but why would God want me to follow him and tell people about him?
You see, Matt, many times we look at our pastors and religious leaders as people who could do no wrong. But that's simply not the case. All of us are sinners. We're not perfect. We all make mistakes, and we all need God's forgiveness. We all need to ask for forgiveness of others sometimes.
This is quite interesting, Sheree. Tell me more.
History and the Bible tell us that Jesus' disciples were brave men who were willing to die for their faith. But the Bible tells us one thing more. It tells us that we are not perfect. We see the disciples getting into jealous quarrels several times, fighting over who would be Jesus' number 1 or 2 man. On the night Jesus was arrested, it was Judas, one of his own disciples, who betrayed him. All but 2 of the disciples fled and hid, afraid of their lives when Jesus was arrested. only Peter and John followed him to Jerusalem to see what would happen. But then Peter, Jesus' closest friend of all, denied he ever knew Jesus 3 times. It's okay that we're not perfect, because the disciples were not perfect. But just like the disciples, an imperfect person like all of us can become disciples of Christ. The work of Jesus goes on even today, and God wants us to follow not only Jesus' example, but the example set by those wacky, imperfect disciples.
Wow, so Jesus calls anyone to be his disciple?
Yes, Matt, anyone. In fact, Emkids, do you think you want to be Jesus' disciple? I mean, if a fisherman and tax collector can do it, I'm sure you can.
I think I'm ready, and I'm going to start right away.
I'm glad, Matt. But before we go running off, remember to always follow God's commandments and do our best to be good. Because even though we may not be perfect, we still have to try to follow God's example of being kind, caring, and loving.
You got that right, Sheree.
Well, Emkids, I can't wait to see your video. And most of all, I hope you will be an awesome disciple of God. That's it from me, Sheree.
And me, Matthew.
Goodbye.